Today, we're diving deep into a framework that didn't just tweak the world, it completely rebuilt it right from the fundamental laws of physics. We're talking about the Extropy Engine and how it literally constructed the civilization of 2035. To really get this revolution, you have to start with the single, massive problem it solved. Just look at this quote. Every system humans have built fails because they run on trust, and trust is a depreciating asset. Think about that. From governments to markets, every single system we've ever created was built on a foundation that was just guaranteed to crumble over time. The core issue was, how we measured what anything was actually worth. On the left, that's the old way of doing things. A dollar's value, it was tied to whoever was in charge of the printing press, not who was creating real value. A vote, it was basically a popularity contest, not a measure of truth. We desperately needed a new model, something like what you see on the right. A system built on verifiable contribution, not just subjective belief. And that all leads to this one absolutely radical question. What if value wasn't something we just believed in? What if it was a law of physics? What if we could build a system that finally stops guessing and starts measuring value based on a physical process called entropy reduction? So what is entropy reduction? Let's make this super simple. Entropy is really just a fancy word for chaos or disorder. So reducing entropy means creating order. Think about it like cleaning a messy room, fixing some buggy code, or taking a confusing idea and making it crystal clear. You're taking chaos and making it coherent. And that simple idea, well, that's the foundation of this entire system. And believe it or not, it all boils down to the single elegant formula. Kind of like E equals mc squared, this little equation defines the physics of value in the Extropy framework. It basically says that your worth, your Extropy points, or XP, is just the amount of order you create divided by how fast that contribution can be verified. That's it. Okay, let's break this down piece by piece. XP, that's your unit of value. Delta S is the actual measurable order you create. Now, C sub L is causal closure speed, which is just a cool way of saying how fast your contribution can be proven to be true and effective. But notice, that term is squared. And that, my friends, is the secret sauce. It means the system exponentially rewards fast, verifiable results, while slow, ambiguous work, it's worth almost nothing. Now here's where it gets really mind-bending. Value can actually be rewarded retroactively. Just look at this timeline. In 2027, a teacher comes up with a new learning method. For a while, nothing happens. No XP. Then, a few years later, her students start showing way better outcomes. Finally, by 2034, the data is undeniable. Her method worked. It measurably reduced chaos in the education system. And that's when the system closes the loop and mints XP, sending it all the way back in time to her 2027 self. It's a system that can finally reward profound, long-term foundational work. All right, so this is the key question for any system of value, right? Can you cheat it? Well, the Extropy framework was designed not just to resist attacks, but to actually learn from them and get stronger. It's anti-fragile by its very nature. So how does it actually stop cheating? In our old trust-based systems, faking value was easy. But in the Extropy framework, you just can't fake physics. Take a look. Collusion and fraud, lying becomes way too energetically expensive. It costs more to fake order than to just create it. Sybil attacks, creating a million fake identities, they all fail entropy verification. You either prove you created real order, or you get 0 XP and you literally burn your reputation in the process. So you might be wondering, how do you verify everything at this massive scale, from a scientific discovery to that teacher's teaching method? The answer is this brilliant thing called the signal flow mesh. First, a complex claim gets broken down into millions of simple microtasks. Then, these tiny tasks get distributed to billions of users, often hidden inside games or other daily activities they're already doing. And finally, the system reassembles all those verified results into a planetary scale truth. It's a genius way to make verification an invisible background process of daily life. So what happens when a system this ruthlessly efficient is unleashed on the world? You get the civilization of 2035. And this wasn't some political revolution. It was more like watching water turn to ice, a phase transition driven by pure, raw efficiency. In a very real sense, it was inevitable. And this chart, wow, it just shows you how ridiculously fast that transition was. In a single decade, systems running on the Extropy framework went from being a tiny fraction of the global economy to 95% dominance. And why? Because organizations using XP were just so much more efficient. It wasn't about belief or politics anymore. Running on trust just became too expensive to compete. This shift completely rewired governance. Political parties, which are basically designed to manage subjective beliefs and arguments, became 90% obsolete. They were replaced by what are called efficiency collectives, groups organized around one single goal, measurably reducing entropy in a specific area, like energy or healthcare. Politics was literally replaced by physics. And the economic impact? It was just staggering. This number, $2.8 trillion, was the market size for DAOs, decentralized autonomous organizations, by 2035. They were the perfect early adopters, proving that an economy tied to objective reality, not subjective trust, could unlock unbelievable growth. As a result, the old institutions that ran on trust, they just withered away. I mean, why have courts when something called causal arbitration could determine cause and effect with hard data? Why have central banks when physics banks could track real, measurable value creation? Even universities were replaced by coherence academies, where you prove your worth by creating order, not just by getting a degree. And look, none of this would have been possible if the underlying tech hadn't reached near perfection. By 2035, the core challenges, things like accurately measuring entropy, achieving decentralized consensus, and building thermodynamic computers, they were essentially solved problems. The technological foundation was finally strong enough for a global-scale system based on physics. So what does all of this mean for the future of human civilization? Well, by 2035, the world had completed Phase 4, the dominance phase of the framework, and was just beginning the next, much more mysterious stage, transcendence. When you boil it all down, the Extropy framework represents a monumental shift in how we see ourselves. We finally stopped arguing about what value is and simply learned how to measure what the universe was already tracking all along, the creation of coherence. Value isn't something we invent. It's a fundamental property of reality itself. So, what's the ultimate takeaway here? This new system, it doesn't care about your opinion, your vote, or your trust. It only cares about one thing, your measurement. And that leaves us all with one final, very provocative question. In a world that can measure your true contribution, what are you actually worth?